İspanya'nın başkenti Madrid'de bulunan La Paz Üniversitesi Hastanesi'nde çalışan acil servis doktoru Yale Tung Chen, 9 Mart'ta COVID-19 hastası olduğunu öğrendi. Bugünden itibaren kendisini evinde karantinaya alan doktor, sosyal medya üzerinden akciğer filmlerini gün be gün paylaştı. Doktor Chen, 3 haftanın sonunda tamamen iyileşti ve işinin başına döndü. First of all, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great, totally recovered after such a long period.
Yes, I think it took you more than 2 weeks, right, to recover?
Yes, almost 3 weeks.
You are a doctor and you work in Spain as a doctor. How did you get infected?
At the beginning of March, there were only suspicion patients, but then we rapidly moved from suspicion to confirm, and in a fashion that was really quick. We moved from 2-3 patients in one weekend to almost 20, and then from there on we had last week 300 patients in the emergency department, and now after all the measures it dropped down. So I think the way the source I got it for my infection was another colleague who was a little bit sick days before I started with my symptoms, rather than having it infected from another patient, since we had strict measures to see each patient. We put our personal protective equipment to see it with many strict policies to decontaminate, so it's really hard to get the infection from a patient.
Do you remember the day that you felt maybe I am infected, and the day that you started to feel the symptoms?
Yes, actually I was quite hesitating about doing the test, because I have family at my home and children, and I didn't want to take any risk. That's why when I started to feel chills and to feel symptoms of cold, that was the moment that I decided to take the test, especially because I didn't want to be a risk or a threat, not only for my family, but also to all my colleagues.
So what kind of symptoms you started to have?
The symptoms started with something that I could say it was similar to a common cold. Mm-hmm. I had a dry cough, weakness, and low-grade fever, some muscle pain, nothing else. Actually, I could still work if I took paracetamol like I did that day, and was at the end of the day, after seeing many COVID positive patients with mild symptoms, that I decided to do also the test. After the second week, started to develop more dry cough, more weakness, and that was after the infection got the lung involvement. And the third week, I believe I started with bacterial superinfection, which is really common after the day 14 if you are feeling worse. That's why I started with another medication, and that is why it took me so long to recover from the disease.
Do you remember the day that you really felt so sick?
The most critical point in this disease is day 5 to 7. After day 5 to 7, that's when usually the mild cases can turn into moderate or more severe cases. Really nasty weakness, with loss of smell, loss of taste, and diarrhea. That was the worst part of all the disease. That happened right at the beginning of the second week.
So we saw that actually you have been sharing your daily symptoms on the social media. How did you decide to share your updates?
I have a handheld ultrasound device. So the first thing I did was, after doing the scan, was to share it on social media, because that's what usually we do. The ones we usually perform ultrasounds is to share that information, to let others also to gain that experience to apply it. Since in this epidemic, this pandemic, we are all in the same boat, and we need to help each other to get the information to other points of the world as soon as possible.
What kind of feedback you got from the social media?
I never expected to create that kind of response. Actually, I was just sharing my case to other people who might get sick, or especially physicians, to consider the lung ultrasound as a tool to them for manage. But then suddenly people were caring about my state and my disease and my recovery, and that's something that I will be always deeply and truly thankful for. Around 10 days ago, I started to feel much better. I started to regain my strength, my appetite, and that's when I considered I was ready to retest myself.
Are you now back to work?
Yes, last week. Last week on Monday I started again to work. As you might know, our hospitals or emergency departments are struggling with dealing all this increasing number of patients. So right now, as I have recovered, I'm someone that can really with safety concerns, that I can be strategically put in the front line.
How is it going now? Like, do you think actually Spain reached the peak point?
I do believe we reached the peak, because the main problem is not the disease itself, it's the number. That is why we are so thankful to all the Spanish population who are right now sacrificing by self-quarantine at home or to lockdown, because we know it's really hard to do it, but for us, for the medical staff, it's really helpful, because that gives us oxygen and time to better treat the patients we have, and as they recover, we can keep treating more patients.